because I do 1,300 crunches and sit-ups 4 times a week.
What's a dose? Can you translate for us?
Winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Ernie Els.
Guys, welcome back to the Goats Track, the podcast about golf and golf adjacent stuff, mostly from Africa, playing a nice little 3-ball on a Sunday evening after a cracking weekend. Cheapers. We had rugby, we had the Durban July, we had a little bit of golf if you were into that, Formula One, Wimbledon, hell, the bloody Proteas were even playing JDV. How are you?
It's fucking freezing in here, Terence. Seriously cold.
JDV calling in from Knysna. And I also want to welcome this evening as our guests on this evening. Welcome to Lynton Kaiser, brother of Ryan. Some of you will remember Ryan from our nine-hole podcast, the 9 Holes of South Africa. Probably the only guest we've had who opened a spreadsheet on our podcast. So that was a first for us. But Lynton, welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll be lucky to join in for some banter and talk a bit of golf, talk a bit of sports, and talk a bit of vino. Thanks, man.
Yeah, cool. Lynton is the guy. Well, besides being an avid golfer, guys, Lynton is also the sales and marketing manager of Boekenhoutskloof wines in Franschhoek. And we're very excited this evening to be kicking off a little collaboration with them, specifically for you guys, and specifically for the Open Championship. JDV, I can't think of a more apt. It feels like you really doing like some method acting here where, you know, you really get into the role of like Open Championship watching golf. Are you sitting there with your blankets? You got the red wine out.
With my Stingers hoodie on.
That is exactly hoodies on. For me, that is what watching Open Championship golf stirs memories of is, you know, fires inside, red wine, and just the golf on all day. Maybe a little pot roast in the oven. But yeah, nice, really cool to have you on, Lynton, and have you guys, you know, doing a collab with us for the Open and for our listeners. I think it's going to be a great little collab. Tell me, Lynton, firstly, how difficult is it trying to work being surrounded by amazing golf courses and amazing wine farms?
I've been fortunate to travel quite a bit through graft, through the world of smokes and vino. Despite when people ask me like, what do I do for work? I say, I answer the phone, I answer emails. Pretty much what I do. But outside of that, you know, being able to travel quite a bit and kind of spread the gospel of South African wine, not just Boekenhoutskloof and what we do, but just genuinely the incredible quality of wines that we as a country produce and we should all be proud of. Been fortunate to travel a bit and play a little bit of golf and see some wonderful places. But just in our little vicinity where I'm located. I know Boekenhoutskloof itself is kind of originally from Franschhoek, but we've become a multi-regional winery. And if I just think of multi-regional for Boekenhoutskloof, we've how many golf courses are kind of in our vicinity? We got Pearl Valley out toward Paul. There's obviously Paul. There's Stellenbosch. There's the Zalzen, and there's Arendal. So yeah, we're very fortunate to have a good kind of 4 or 5 lacquer tracks within our immediate surrounds.
Sorry, I might have just spilt a little bit of your chocolate block over my computer. Yeah. I saved it.
If for the listeners who can't see the video, JDV is wrapped up in a blanket and a hoodie, sitting outside a house somewhere in an undisclosed location near Knysna. JDV, appreciate the commitments. Lynton, just outline a little bit like where Boekenhoutskloof is. Firstly, am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yeah.
And where is it?
I'll dive you guys straight into it, and I don't want to kind of. I know really appreciate you kind of bringing in vino as a little bit of the add-ons to the Go track. So it's really aligned like for me because it's vino and golf. So thank you for that. For the listeners who haven't necessarily heard of Boekenhoutskloof, don't worry, you're not alone. Boekenhoutskloof is very quietly quite a very small and very intricate business, but is actually a massive brand player in the South African wine market. So Boekenhoutskloof essentially is a winery that was established in the modern era of South African wine. We're not a very old business. We made our first wines in 1996 in a small corner of Franschhoek where we bottled just one wine, just Cabernet, under our Boekenhoutskloof label. And that was 6,000 bottles to where we are now, sort of 25, 26, a little over 30 years later, 30 vintages later. We're doing between 6.5 and 7.5 million bottles of wine. So if you look at the listeners who would not necessarily have heard of Boekenhoutskloof, might have walked through their retail outlet and something like JDB's, Jacques Sprinkled, the chocolate block there is quite prominent for us. We also produce Wolf Trap. We also produce Porcupine Ridge. Those are steadfast players for us. But essentially, it's a business that's grown from very small roots and is still very much operated as a very kind of small winery. Considering the amount of wine that the business produces, and I referred earlier to us being sort of multi-regional. We produce wine out of Stellenbosch. You're drinking a wine out of Stellenbosch, CT, the Helderberg Winery Reserve. We produce a fair amount of wine out of the Swartland. JDV, you're drinking Chocolate Block, which is out of the Swartland. We produce a bit of wine now, essentially our home appellation of Franschhoek. We produce a little bit of wine toward Hermanus in the Upper Himlanada Valley or the Greater Cape South Coast. So our business has become multi-regional, and it's been an incredible growth journey. And considering the amount of wine that's produced out of essentially 3 or 4, call it 3 wineries, we're still very much a small business. We're not a corporate business at all. We still, considering how much wine gets produced, we're less than 90 people in our entire business. So it's very much still a kind of a very small, special little business that we have.
And how did that like transition go from like producing kind of almost like small batch type of wine into kind of growing out into all those other brands? Was that just like sort of strategic growth, organic growth? How did that kind of happen?
Yeah, it's really just the brainchild and the kind of the maverick spirit of a guy called Mark Kent. Mark is essentially our business leader. Mark is not big on titles, but Mark is a winemaker who was the very first winemaker of Boekenhoutskloof back when the business was started when the business was established in 1994 with the first vintage in 1996. Mark always had an appetite for growing business and commercial, scalable volumes. And Mark was really the guy that drove this business in terms of not just resting on its laurels of producing sort of one brand, and started essentially in 1996 with one wine, one singular product, looking with one singular label. And he was the one, along with a fellow founder of Boekenhoutskloof, a gentleman by the name of Tim Rant. They were the ones that really were the visionaries behind growing the business in terms of scale. And then for the last sort of 15 years, it's Mark who's really driven the business in terms of growing different brands and then growing volumes and taking the business abroad as well. I say abroad, we have a substantial footprint in the domestic market in South Africa, but we're essentially about a 70-30 export to domestic market business. So we have a decent footprint. We have a solid footprint abroad as well, and trying our best to kind of be the flag bearers of, one of the flag carriers of South African wine abroad.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe, I had no idea it's the scale of all the different brands that you guys had under your umbrella. And I think a lot of people would be quite surprised by by that, and a lot of really familiar brands. And then obviously there's a couple that that I'm not that familiar with, but very interested to get stuck into. So guys, basically, what we're doing for the Open Championship is
we specifically because you can dock during the day. It's hard with the majors in the US.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it depends what your Monday morning calendar looks like after like the Masters and that. But for most people, it doesn't look great. But yeah, guys, what we're doing is Lynton and the team have been very kind to put together an offer of like a 20% discount on all the wine ordered through their online store, and that's going to run for a week. So it's going to run from Monday the 7th. This podcast will be out tomorrow. Well, we're recording it on Sunday, but it'll be out tomorrow. So basically running from today through to the following Monday. That gives them time to get the wine shipped to you and basically get to your door just in time for the Open Championship and just in time for your viewing of the Open Championship. So we will drop out the code for that. And yeah, you guys need to, most of your listeners are members on our website, but you just need to sign up on our website and you can find all the information there around the codes and that. It will also be going out on an email list to everybody. And we can probably drop the code in at the end of this podcast as well. But yeah, really cool offer. And I just want to thank you guys, Lynton, for doing that. Also,
guys, if you the guys that are listening to this and wondering, shit, I never kind of said, like, I was Boekenhoutskloof and then there's Chocolate Block, Wolf Trap, Fun Region. He's drinking Helderberg and I'm drinking wine called Captain Team. Like, how does it all kind of fit together? And that's kind of the beauty of our business. It's a big business, but it's very non-corporate. Kind of everything is kind of a bit of mishmash. So if you do follow the link once you get the mailer with this evening's podcast, just don't be alarmed and think you're being taken to some kind of Chinese derivative of Temu or something like that when you go to our website, which is our kind of online store, which is called the Invincible Wine Shop. So don't be alarmed when you go to that and it doesn't seem familiar to what we're talking about in terms of wine. It is just the home of where we do our kind of online business of all of our brands and have them kind of umbrellaed neatly there.
So Lynton, if you get to the Cocoa Cube wine, then you've hit the Temu knockoffs.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, we can't make Tembo Boomer jokes anymore about that.
Yeah, so invincible.wine, that is it, guys.
Yes.
And the code is TGT Open 20. That will get you guys. That is the discount code for when you're checking out. And yeah, orders over 1,000 Rand, Lynton, if I'm not mistaken, you guys handle the shipping for free. So guys, get on there, order a whole bunch of wine. You got a limited time to do it. Make sure you sign up to the Go Track as a member. That's also kind of one of the requirements. And yeah, looking forward to a cracking Open Championship with some Boekenhoutskloof in hand, of course. Guys, we thought, like just to tie in with this wine special and that, we thought we'd do a little like preview of like and run through some stuff from the Open Championship. And JDV, you and I were kind of scratching our heads around, like what were we going to bring to the table that that other guys are possibly not going to cover. We're not going to necessarily do justice to like the venue and that, like some other podcasts might do, and cover all the top players, but we thought, wouldn't it be great to run through all the South African winners of the Open Championship over the years and just touch on a couple of the like kind of the highlights and some like maybe nuances from those particular victories. So, guys, going back, and by the way, this just tasted this Helderberg Reserve, Lynton. It's bloody delicious. I actually haven't had this one yet. I did have a couple of sneaky sips of a few of the other ones, but this Helderberg Reserve is very nice. guys, yeah, going back.
Listen to some golf and we'll touch back on Bino.
Okay, no, that sounds good. I mean, there's been how many winners, guys? South African winners. We've had Bobby Locke, Gary Player, Ernie, and Louis are the 4 winners of Open Championship. Guys, Bobby Locke. We're going to go right back to the beginning. So Bobby Locke won 4 Open Championships, and one of the awesome things about his stretch of victories was that three of his Opens were won in the period of 4 years. So he won 1949, 1950, and 1952, and then he went on in 1957 and he won again as well. So there are very, very few players who have won that many times, and also very few players who have had a stretch in the Open like that. Just missing the 1951, he would have had 4 in a row. But quite an incredible little run. I think JDV, one of the sort of two sort of standout highlights for me from his, his kind of run was, in back in those days, I don't know if you guys are aware, but they used to have to qualify for the Open, like regardless of who you were. So I think the only person who got in for free was the previous year's winner. I stand to be corrected, but I think that's how it works. Right. So you would play in a 36-hole qualifier on Monday and Tuesday, regardless of who you were for the Open. And then the first round would start on Wednesday. So they used to play Wednesday to Saturday. Then obviously Sundays were a no-go. This is kind of an interesting one because not only did Bobby Locke obviously play in that qualifier on the Monday and Tuesday, he actually ended up on Saturday tied in 1949 with an Irish gentleman. And guys, the playoff back then wasn't like a little 4-hole playoff like they do now. They used to play a 36-hole playoff for the Open. So they came back. I want to say they came back on the Monday. I actually have to check this, but they came back and they played 36 holes in a single day as the playoff. So if you take into account the Monday, Tuesday qualifying, that is 8 rounds of golf. He basically played, the Open twice to win that 1949. So he ended up winning that 36-hole playoff by 12 shots. So he kind of boat raced the Irishman. And then, what do you guys know about Bobby Locke in terms of what his secret weapon was?
So T, just firstly, who was the Irishman he beat again?
He was unnamed by me, JDV, but I can try and find his name for you. His name was Harry Bradshaw.
Yes. Okay. So interestingly, and Lynton, to your point, you were saying when was the last time a South African won in Ireland? So Bobby Locke won in 1938. He won the Irish Open, and then actually came runner-up in the Irish Open in 1949 to Harry Bradshaw. So maybe to give a bit more meat to that. And Harry Bradshaw had won it. Sorry?
How on earth do you know that?
T, I'm just normal general knowledge. If you're a South African golf aficionado, you should know that Bobby Locke won the Irish Open in 1938 and came runner-up to Bradshaw in 49.
And if you think JDV went to Wikipedia, just go and look at the SA Open on Wikipedia and see that nobody's updated that thing in 4 years. So well done.
But so you did pique my interest there, T, and I was like, okay, well, where would a South African have won in Ireland? And then I thought, well, if it wasn't one of the Opens, it had to be somewhere in the Irish Open, and he was the only oak who popped up on the Irish Open in 1938, and then obviously shows runners up. So you did catch me, but interesting. 1940 to 45, no tournaments due to World War II, and then for another little tidbit, the Irish Open took a break between 1954 and 1974. So it was like a 20-year break where there was no Irish Open. But yeah, South Africans haven't done. Darren Fichardt came runner-up. Sorry, we're going in a proper rabbit hole here. But yeah, there we go. That's the last time it seems that a South African won in Ireland, 1938.
I had no idea you were such an Irish Open expert, JDV. This is fantastic news.
Just on the what did you say? Monday, Tuesday qualifier. Then they dueled the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
So actually, I just looked at that. I actually had that wrong. So yes, Monday, Tuesday qualifier. Then they played Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday they played the 36. Third and the fourth round.
36 on the Friday.
36
on the Friday.
So 36 Friday. Then he came back on Saturday and played 36 in the playoff.
Interesting. I mean, you look back at some of the classic US Opens back in the day. They didn't play Sundays. They did 36 on the Saturday.
Right. Yeah, that was the final round.
Probably you'll find if you dig deep, it might have something to do with the Open being played on a lot of, well, back in the day, well, still now, generally they are public courses. And I mean, if you go to St Andrews now, you can't play the old course on a Sunday because it's just open to the public. So potentially the reason
that's interesting.
And it might have just been Saturdays and Sundays it's open to the public because it's a public park essentially. In St Andrews, the old course is reserved for 2 Sundays a year. The year that they host an Open, outside of that, it's just one Sunday, which is when they host the downhill. Outside of that, on Sundays, you cannot play you cannot play, or you can just walk on it, but you can't play the old course.
Yeah,
public
interesting.
Yeah, look, I'm guessing it's primarily like religious based that they weren't playing on Sundays. But yeah, it's pretty. It's such a cool little nuance, and I'm sure like a lot of these courses, but particularly the old course, that it has that like public park aspects. But yeah, so guys, Bobby Locke basically had like one like super skill. Do you guys know what it was?
Putting. His putting was unbelievable. Was that it? Yeah. So he was considered like a total freak with the putter. Like he was like an absolute surgeon with the putter, and he had like a really unusual putting stroke. So he used to pull the putter like way back on the inside, and then basically like almost hood it over the ball. And he used to basically like try and generate as much like overspin on his putts as possible, and that's how he developed this like. When you say overspin, like
putting style,
like topspin, what, like trying to get the ball rolling? So if I'm going to try and get it like end on end, like try and hit it on the top of the board to get it rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So he used to sort of almost like try and cover the ball in that way. So he was hitting kind of like, kind of.
I feel like I'm trying to do that now. So maybe I'm a bit like Bobby Locke. I'm trying to also do that, trying to but that's more like plasters on plasters.
Well, we could analyze your normal swing and see if it's like Bobby Locke's, JDV.
Probably.
Do you want to do a side by side sometime?
Same physique.
Bobby Locke was he wasn't a thin guy. Let's put it that way. But yeah, Ben Hogan famously said, he used to call Bobby Locke the surgeon with the putter. And then, I mean, interestingly enough, I think it's quite kind of widely known, but the sort of unofficial story of Bobby Locke was that he was like unofficially like banned from playing on the PGA Tour because he went over there and was just winning at such a rate that they came up with an excuse to kind of ban him from the tour, which was that he wasn't playing enough events. But yeah, allegedly it was more of we actually can't beat this guy.
You guys are going to have to help me here. There was an Open that Bobby Locke won, that he won by a fair amount of strokes, and then somebody reminded him afterwards that he there was somewhere in the round, on his final round, he marked his ball and didn't replace the ball. He marked and then marked away and then didn't mark back correctly, which should have resulted in a two-stroke penalty. But he'd been so far ahead that it was just deemed after the fact that I just won anyway, so just leave it alone. I'll have to check that one. There was one where he won by a fair amount of strokes already, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway, but he didn't mark his ball correctly after moving mark in the final round.
It could have been this 1949 one because he ended up winning that playoff by 12 strokes. He pretty much boat raced the Oak. So could have been that one. But guys, JDV, that's without going into too many of the details, I think what was a nice little, I mean, a lot of people say, his career would have been a lot more prolific and he would have had more majors if he had decided to play in the US more. Obviously, back in those days, it was very much like, you played kind of in Europe or he did go over to the US and he did play in one Masters, I think, and a couple of US Opens. But never won any of them. And in 1957 he kind of finished off his Open Championship career with a win at St Andrews, which was a nice kind of like nugget to the end of his career. You're gonna take us to our next absolute champion of South African sport,
Mr. Gary Player. Terence, he's got 3 of these bad boys. So, I mean, might as well just start with the obvious. I mean, you don't need to ask the man. I'm sure he'll tell you. He's the only player to have won a Open Championship or a major in 3 separate decades, having won it in 1959, 1968, and 1974. He won the Open Championships. I'm going to run through these. Stop me if I'm getting ahead of myself. But so I'm going to start with the 1959 Open Championship, which was held at Muirfield. Gary Player, aged 23. What's going to be a theme through these 3 is Catherine's just pouring herself another little glass of chocolate block here, just taking it off the table.
Go for it.
So what's going to be a theme through these is what the prize money was in these times. So for his victory in 1959 as an Open champion, he earned himself £1,000. So I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, adjusted for inflation, etc., this is going to be worth millions and millions. Well, I did that. I got onto ChatGPT and I did a couple of double checks. Adjusted for inflation in today's money, that is £26,000. So the Oaks were playing for absolute peanuts. So to give you an example, what is that in today's money? So 2024 Open champion won $3.1 million or roughly £2.3 million. So again, £2.3 million for the winner. Gary Player, adjusted for inflation, won £26,000. So if that doesn't give you an idea of how far the prize money has come in professional golf, and why you can understand as well why these Oaks played sort of big money, sort of appearance fees, sort of skins games events, you can understand. I mean, it's actually a bit crazy what the prize money was in those days. Interestingly, the other thing in the 1959 championship, no Americans made the cut. So it was a full international field. When I say no Americans made the cut, only 4 of them thought it was necessary to tee it off in the first place. So of those 4, none of them made it. First 2 rounds, Player didn't even bother the scorers. He wasn't on the leaderboard, not in the top 10. But he got to even with a 2 under par in the 3rd round, where he was a T10 after the 3rd round, and he was 4 off the lead. What I've got here is that in the final round, he could have shot a 66, so he could have gone like a prop low round in the Open Championship at the time. But he doubled the last. He hit it in the bunker and then 3 putted on the last green. He still won by 2 at 4 under at Muirfield. So reading a couple of the columns of the time, I think everyone was sort of saying, no, this is, an international player. And they attributed a lot of his success in going over to the US and playing in the US at the time. But yeah, 1959, that was his first win. 23 is young, eh? So I mean, if you think about the 23-year-old players, and that was it. So he won himself a cool £1,000, but I think the value there was not so much in the prize money back in the day, but the opportunities it gave him to play sort of skins games and appearance fees and the rest of it. I don't know if you guys picked up anything in the 1959 Open Championship at Muirfield.
Well, I wanted to ask Lynton. I mean, Lynton, you've played Muirfield, correct?
Yeah, a couple times. So like a track.
I think it's famously your WhatsApp profile picture. As far as I remember, you telling me that story.
13. Excuse me, 2012. Absolutely despises me for it. Interestingly, obviously Muirfield had two. Obviously, we've had a couple since then, but the two most recent ones, 2002 and 2013, kind of tale of two with different weather conditions. 2002 had that famous hardcore storm that came through, and I mean, actually shooting in the 80s. I think didn't Ernie shoot the Tiger shot in the 80s, but then Ernie obviously ended up winning it. And then in 2013, Phil won it. Now at the time, I was working for Ernie, and I remember Ernie still saying, because that was then a famously depending on the way you look at it, dry, hot Scottish summer, and Ernie was actually that. I'm chatting to Ernie at the time, so was sort of saying that I couldn't believe that they would allow a golf course to become that fast because of equipment that they were bringing in. You know, they were using modern equipment, Toro mowers and sort of thing, and you're making the golf course even faster than what it should be. So that was one thing that I kind of found quite interesting about Muirfield. I think when it is dry and when it is hot, it is incredibly fast. And regardless if you hit it down the middle of the fairway, you could go and find that thing and it'll be 6-7 feet into the rough.
So Lynton, were they saying, well, you can't believe they're doing that with the equipment because it's going to make it go even further than it should be? Because it almost seems like the only
faster. And
because the only defense of equipment nowadays seems to be making it firm and fast. So it's interesting that back in the day, it's like you need to be making it sort of not as firm and fast for the equipment.
Correct. Yeah.
Whereas now you're saying the firmer and faster you make it, the bigger the defense.
The way an open golf course and obviously a links golf course is built is, it's completely condition wise. If it's rainy and blustery, the course is just going to play along. But now that 2013 particularly was hot and dry, and I just recalled this conversation that we were having with Ernie after I think it was round 2, saying, "Fuck it, it's tricky out there because the weather's playing with us. It's hot, it's dry, and now you got modern equipment on this golf course, which is not the way it's built for, and it's now a highway, and with the equipment, this is pre-rollback discussions. With the equipment we're having, we're hitting the ball way down the fairway, way further than we should be, and you could be hitting it purely 100% down the middle where you're wanting to be positioning it. But then because of the equipment that is then firmed this thing up even further, you'd have no idea where the ball's going to end up.
But that's fair enough. Like if you're gonna take on the distance, like with as I've said in the previous podcast, with great power comes great responsibility. Like, you must take your medicine. And I think that's also what we love to see at the Open is a bit of variable bounce, a bit of rubber the green. But let me go to the 1968 Open, which was the next decade that Gary Player won in. I want to first start off with a little stats on the prize fund, which is where I started the last one at. So the winner gets 3 times as much as they did in 1959, which was just less than a decade previously. The winner now gets £3,000, which is approximately $7,200. You think, okay, well, that's not that much, which is fair enough. And even the pros, I think, at that stage knew that they weren't playing for that much because the Milwaukee Open at that time on the same weekend, which was running opposite field to the Open at the time, was offering $40,000 to the winner. So a lot of the Americans decided to, stay in a comfy bed and with all of the home comforts and compete for $40,000 as opposed to making the trip.
Basically, had lived then already.
Well, exactly. And the US Open, or when I say US, I mean the US, the PGA was the ones doing it.
No street cred, but you played the Milwaukee Open, and they were probably throwing beers into you if you had closest to 15.
Some ales.
Jeez, Gary. Yo.
So $40,000 for the winner. And I will say Billy Casper, who was the American leading after the first round. He had this to say. He said, well, look, if you're a proper golfer, you have to come across and give the Open a shot. So he was a hot American at the time, and foregoed the 40,000 Milwaukee Open and decided to tee it up at the Open. And he was the leader after round one at -4. Another interesting one, Peter Els, who I'll get to later for my Louis Oosthuizen. Some of his quotes were pretty classic when I was listening to the commentary again. But Peter Els was sitting at T9 after the first round. And he was at +1. Gary Player shot a 74 in the first round. He said after his 74, and bearing in mind, Carnoustie, some of the articles that I read, everyone was just saying, like, this is like the most difficult golf course in the world. I think they were calling it like sweet and sour. They were like the sweet Open leaves a sour taste in all the players' mouths. So guys were pretty harsh about the Open. I think difficult golf has done a sort of a 180, where everyone was like, oh, we don't want to play difficult golf courses. But yeah, this was one of the times where everyone was like, who on earth? I mean, I think one of the articles said the safest place to be is in the clubhouse, when they're talking about Carnoustie. So Gary Player wasn't even on the leaderboard. He shot a +4, and he said he was lucky. He played absolute rubbish. That was a quote. Second round, he was 1 under, got to T5 at +1, so he shot a 1 under there. Billy Casper still at 4 under. Then third round, Gary Player shot another 71. Even par got him third on his own. Billy Casper went back to -2. Fourth round, 73 for Gary Player, 1 over. +1, 2 shots ahead of Billy Casper, who shot a 78. So Billy Casper completely fell off the horse on the final day. Jack Nicklaus came tied second. He had a +3. I remember Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player reading some of the quotes. They were sort of slogging it down, and Gary Player, said to Jack Nicklaus after a couple of really good shots, he's like, what are you trying to do to me? And Jack Nicklaus turned around and said, what are you talking about? What are you trying to do to me? So I think the guys were slogging it down, like having a proper go at each other down the fairways. So just going back to
you said you remember Jack Nicklaus saying that.
Yeah, so I remember it well. He was. I was just delighted.
It's amazing.
I remember.
You were just a little nipper, but you remember that one.
Yeah. So I remember.
I was trying to work out what year you were talking about.
It was a bit muffled in my ears at the time.
Just out of interest, like a side story on Carnoustie. So when I was doing the reading up about Bobby Locke, I just happened to stumble onto the 1953 Open, which wasn't one that obviously that Bobby Locke won, but Ben Hogan won that, and that was at Carnoustie. And I think the thing that stood out for me, just reading the quick summary of that tournament, was that there was only one round in that whole tournament where that was in the 60s. One player.
Hang on, T. You're stealing my stat. My stat is at.
And that was the course record.
Yeah, there was in 1968. At that time, only 3 players in 3 Opens had broken 70. Okay. So I mean that's cool. That's how difficult it was, and I mean so Gary Player shot a couple of 71s, but the guys didn't break 70. So I mean you've got these pros again just absolutely slogging it out. Gary Player wins that one at +1. and yeah, it just sounded like an absolute like hack fest, like survive, and yeah, that was the 68 Open at Carnoustie.
What did you say? Billy Casper shot the final round? 78, 79, 78.
78. He shot a 78 in the final round, I think. And I mean, when I say listening, I remember well when I was watching that feed and when I was there in 1968. No, but reading some of the articles.
Just regale us with the tale there.
you know those girls who like have crystals and stuff. They're like, I remember being on like Napoleon's battlefield. Like, yeah, I remember at the Carnoustie 1968 Open. But it does sound like everyone was saying that it was an absolute nightmare. One of the quotes from Gary Player, and I think this was the 68 and not the 74, where he said he had hit a shot with a 3-wood where he just hacked at it, and he said it stayed so straight that he had to lean over sideways to see the flag stick. And I was like, that is such a Gary Player quote to say something like that.
Oh my God. Out of interest, did you see Gary's most recent quotes on Instagram after one of his chip shots? Did you see that recently?
What did he say?
He hit like a really good chip shot next to the green, and then he turns to his playing partner and he says, "Do you know what they call a shot like that in South Africa?"
No.
It's like, no. It's like, they call that talent. It's just like the weirdest.
It's like, why would they call it elsewhere?
He used the same line in the par 3 competition in 2024.
Okay.
Look, to be fair, like they were saying on the NLU podcast, they were like, when Gary Player was playing the practice rounds at the Masters, that he basically said the same thing to every single 4-ball he finished. He's like, you know what I love at this place is I eat the grass and I love it, and he like takes him out of the grass. So it sounds like I definitely think Gary, doesn't come up with original lines for every single person he meets. I think he's got a roster of lines that he uses, like that line that he said about, this is the straightest shot I've ever hit. I had to lean over sideways to see the flag stick. I will put good money on the fact that's not the first time he had said that.
Lynton, do you do that when you're selling wine? Do you like take like the grapes and like the last time I missed take the gravel? It must be difficult though to come up with like new superbolies about the wine, you know.
So it's great you actually bring that up, because wine. Forgive me. Yeah, the wine industry is in such an interesting place right now. I know we talk about people like doping less. Maybe not that's necessarily, or hopefully not the go trackers, the go track followers. But the wine industry is one of those places, or one of those industries on the liquor side that often gets criticized for being a little bit behind, because we maybe seem a little bit snooty and trying to explain the differences between Cabernet and Merlot and Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. Wine is so fun. Just if you find something that you like, just put a cork on it. Just enjoy it. Like don't overthink it. Don't let anybody kind of tell you, "Oh no, like that's not a great wine," or "That's not a lacquer wine." If somebody says to you, "Yes, I had that and it wasn't lacquer," but it might be something that you enjoy. Wine is deeply personal, and I think people just almost are intimidated to try and get into wine. And you ask me about what little anecdotes do you get people to get into wine? Wine is just, try as much wine as you like until you find the one that you really enjoy, and then just stick with it. And then from there, your enjoyment of something will carry on from that, will follow on from that. You might find a very lacquer Chenin, and just a conversation with somebody else who might have had something very similar will initiate a little bit of interest in the next one, rather than you being told like, this is a good one, that should not be a good one, that won't be a good one. Just follow your gut in it. Whiskey might be a little bit easier where somebody says to you like, Bell's is way better than Jameson. Cool. Conversation done. Where somebody might say to you like, Porcupine Ridge Merlot is way better than Wolf Trap. try both until you find the one that, or try both and you decide on that. If you like drinking Sauvignon Blanc with 4 blocks of ice in it and kind of make it, chill it ice cold and slug it in 2 sips, cool. If that's the way you want to do it, then do it. Just
sounds like my mom.
Exactly. Like wine just needs to be kind of like decluttered a little bit. Next time you're walking through a supermarket aisle and you don't know what to choose, just, I don't know, pick the one with gold medals on it, or pick the one that doesn't have gold medals on it, or pick the one that Pick and Pay is saying that 2 for a price and it's in a small shop deal. Just pick it, and then if it's lacquer, just drop it and enjoy it. And if there's something in it that and that's the beauty of the internet. If there's something in there that is attracting you to it, go read up a little bit about it and get interested in wine. And actually, please put my, I regret saying this, but please put my mail address and you can put my phone number on the newsletter going out tomorrow with a podcast. What questions about vino? Ask rather than be intimidated by it. Because I promise you, doing this and doing this is not intimidating.
Well, I mean, I know with the chocolate block it was a good one. Like I always said, so if you're looking for, and I said it to we had a Canada attorney who was getting admitted and they wanted to buy a gift for, you sort of order to buy a gift for the guy who's moving your application for admission. I said, can't go wrong with chocolate block. I mean, it's that perfect like wine where it's like there is a prestige to like a chocolate block, but at the same time it's very drinkable, and it's like a properly good. I don't know. I like think chocolate block for me is that like perfect epitome of like that price point of like that prestige, but also just like super, super tasty. Like it's exactly as you're saying, like you put it in there, you taste it, you're like, man, this is delicious.
Just a disclaimer, this was before the paid for advertising for today.
But finally, Lynton, before we carry on, I just wanted to say we did do a little wine tasting here in Eisner with my dad. And I have to call you wine guys out. There can only be so many ways to describe a wine because all of them are like fruity, plum, wooded, oak.
Rich tannin, this velvety. Like honestly,
so I mean, we were laughing.
It's so hyperbole and ChatGPT. You can forgive the pun,
but it's a bit like saying
in somebody's tasting notes.
But it's a bit like saying, like, what does an apple taste like to someone who's never tasted an apple? It's like, well, it's impossible to tell you what that tastes like. You need to taste it, and then you'll know what it tastes like. But is it a bit like, and I suppose my question is it a bit cryptic in the sense that if something says plum or if something says wooded, or maybe not wooded is a different one, but if something says berries, it's got a bit of a cryptic meaning within wine because it doesn't actually taste like berries. It tastes like a specific taste within the wine.
That's what I think. Like I'm one of these people. Crucially, you're probably going to go against me, but I absolutely just kind of despise like a tasting note actually, because like I said, crucially, like wine is deeply personal. Your perception of if somebody says, what color is green. If somebody gives you 30 green cookies, like which is the green one that you choose is your green versus my green versus T's green? It's so personal. What does a plum taste like to you? Tastes different. It's a different plum to me. It's a different plum to tea. And that's something like tasting notes, and that's probably maybe why wine has become so intimidating. People might look at it from the outside and say, I guess this year it's just taught us a bunch of, you guys are talking a bunch of bullshit here, and you're not actually teaching us anything. Tasting notes have become so hyperbole, and I think that's right. It goes back to just open bottles, taste bottles, go to a bar with mates instead of just kind of taking 12 beers and kind of bring in bar. Take 2 bottles of wine. Take 2 bottles of wine and open them both up. And open both up at the same time. Don't open one to finish one and then go to the other one. Open both up and taste through them because they change. The bottle also changes as it's standing open. And I'm glad you kind of like mentioned the chocolate block there, and kind of as a as a bit of a fail-safe here. So I'll just kind of plug into a little bit on what we do with the chocolate block. The chocolate block's been around now for about 23 odd years. We first vintage was back in 2002. The wine it's not chocolatey. It's not supposed to be chocolatey. It was born in an era of wine brands looking to be a little bit more kind of off-piste and not be kind of traditional labeled. So it was just a wine that kind of came up with this clean white label that just said the chocolate block, and it was just an idea of a buyer in the UK who was looking for something unique, and that was his idea, to have a kind of a white label and a wine called chocolate block. And it's grown from kind of very small volumes to something that is now extraordinarily large. We're not afraid, and we're not ashamed to admit, in as much as the world's always looking for craft and small. Craft and small, it's kind of got its attachments. It's
got its downsides,
Yeah,
there's some downsides to being small. Let's be honest.
We're not ashamed to tell people that the chocolate block is well over 1 million bottles. But we are very proud to tell people that of those 1 million bottles, we know that we farm 70% of the fruit that we make for that wine. That goes into that wine. We have sizable sourcing contracts for our business, as most major wineries would, big wineries would, or large volume wineries would. But the fact that the quality of the chocolate block is at well over 1 million bottles, that we're farming 70% of our own fruit, making 100% of the wine here. We're not buying in bulk wine for that. We are crushing every single grape that goes into the chocolate block. Is for us one of the thing that we probably easily the most proud of. And JD, to your point, yes, it's always easily drinkable. It's always approachable. In its competitor set is in that sort of price point of sort of what's it, sort of 230, 240 through to 300, where chocolate block kind of currently sits.
Well, I think you're selling the benefits of the Go Track discounts and the rest of it. I think we checked it out. It was sitting at 400 at some of the places I was having a look at.
No ways.
Promise you.
Absolutely not.
I promise you.
You were shopping in different currency. I promise you were shopping in different currency.
Okay, well, I must double check.
Woolworths is 295, and Woolworths like
Wait,
stick.
I'm gonna because my dad was checking it out last night, and he said it was sitting at 400 somewhere.
Was this before or after the wine tasting that he was checking the pricing?
Yeah, this could have been afterwards.
That might be the difference.
Maybe he was looking at the wrong vintage.
In its competitor set, it's the one wine that's a little bit different. Kind of. Its competitor set is generally more Bordeaux style driven, which is more Cabernet, Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, Cabernet Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Malbec, Petit Verdot driven, where chocolate block is more Syrah Grenache, Cinsault. It's generally more approachable varietals, as especially as a younger wine. So I don't know where you find $400 though.
So you're right, $300. I'm looking here when I'm looking at it, but there's some places. There's one place here, 2018, $450.
So while JDB does deep research there, Lynton, what I want to ask, and just touching on what JDB said, I would regard myself as like an 18 handicap wine drinker. I think that's about fair. I think I play off about an 18 when it comes to like wine. I enjoy it. I don't drink that much wine, but when I do, I really like having a nice bottle of wine. And for me, it is quite intimidating going into like the bottle store or the wine shop or whatever, and just looking at literally sometimes hundreds of different brands. And what I find is that
you live in Saltrock,
often
Top's lifestyle in Belito, which is a hell of an intimidating.
Yeah,
it's
that
very
thing is
intimidating.
nuts,
Yeah, and but what I found is that I default to wines that, like, okay, obviously that maybe I've had before, or a lot of the wines that I think that I like, I have like certain memories attached to them. And Do you find that that's a big driver in like the sales decision with people?
100%.
Is that like
100%.
emotive? Yeah,
100%.
and
the more activation that we can do in wine, pouring wine for people at events, even if it's just a good old wine mix, but just pouring wine for somebody at a random wine show, but just interacting with that person and just hey, what are you picking up there? And just if you can just connect that with that person a little bit, so that they'll remember that they walked away and said, like, shit, that was a pretty lacquer wine, but I actually had a lacquer conversation with somebody over that. And it's exactly what you said. That's so emotive.
okay.
It's a little bit like opening. Somebody might invite you over and say, we'll come over. We're going to open a very rare 25-year-old Scotch or something like that. But when the thing is open, like, oh shit, that's actually pretty average. I didn't really enjoy it. It's very peaty, but you'll never forget it because somebody actually made a big deal about bringing you over there and said, like, shit, this is actually pretty lacquer. And then at the time, I thought, shit, I'm actually into this. So wine is very much. There's so many memories that can go into a bottle of wine. Unfortunately, you can also enjoy a bottle of wine and finish it with 3 or 4 or 2, depending on your appetite, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and you can have such a wonderful time around it, be it a golf tour, be it a anniversary. You'll never forget that bottle of wine because of the emotion attached to it, regardless of what was actually going into your glass.
So hopefully this weekend, guys, the next 2 weeks, we can attach the Boekenhoutskloof wine, we can attach the memories to potentially, like another South African winner of the Open, JDV, because we're going through the record books here, and as we know, the sad thing is it's been a minute since we lifted the Claret Jug.
If I may interject here, I'm glad you guys have talked about Bobby Locke being kind of a heavier set lad. Our two best performing golfers at this point in time right now. I know Gary Kigger had a pretty decent win not too long ago on the PGA Tour, and he's slim and trim. But our other two boys are heavy set, let's be honest. Tristan Lawrence is playing a little bit of golf, and our winner last weekend.
Aldrich Potgieter. But
would be very good.
But I was saying Dean Burmister's not a small lad either. I mean, I wouldn't say he's chunky, but he's a beast.
Trying to make it
he's more athletic though.
Make it up for the guys who like a party.
We needed Brandon Grace. We needed him in the mix as well.
But guys, how swag must it have been last week for Aldrich after winning, and now you're 20 years old, and it's literally illegal for you to have like a drink like after your win.
Somebody bring the Diet Coke.
Yeah,
sacrilege. Didn't he say he wanted some brandy in it, or someone said give that man some brandy in there?
It's also worse than they brought him a Diet Coke.
I was looking yeah. I was looking up afterwards, like that state that they were in, which is where's that? Illinois, I think it is. But that's like one of those states where you can't even like give your kid in the privacy of your own home, like it's illegal for to even give your 18-year-old kid like a beer sort of thing. It's like quite hardcore. So I don't know whether like his dad drove him across state lines to like go and find a brandy, or it'd be interesting to know whether there was any kind of alcohol consumed. But
I'm sure.
Yeah, I take your point is well made.
They definitely had a bit of a dock in the motel.
Yeah, there is no doubt in my mind that there was a lot of alcohol consumed after that. I'll take some bets on that one.
And JDV, you missed the chat, but he Aldrich withdrew from the event yesterday after the third round. So maybe just like a fourth day hangover kicking in. Who knows? Is he legit question? Is he qualified for the Open?
He would have. I think he was qualified for the Open, wasn't he? Isn't he?
I don't think he. I don't know. I don't think he is. Anyway, maybe we can look that up. JDV, do you wanna give us the summary take on Gary Player?
The summary of the 1974 Open, Gary Player, Royal Lytham and St Anne's. The big controversy in this.
So just to be clear, this is 15 years after his first Open win.
After his 59 Open, yeah.
That's crazy.
So third decade of winning the Open. Royal Lytham and St Anne's. The big controversy at this stage was that he was playing the larger American ball as opposed to the smaller British ball that they had a choice of playing. And it was compulsory now to play the American ball, and I think it's been compulsory ever since. So, yeah, there were a lot of news articles out there where everyone was bemoaning the fact that they had to play these big American balls. Take of that what you will. But, yeah, after the first round, Gary Player, Bobby Cole, and John Morgan. So Bobby Cole was also a South African. Did you know Bobby Cole? Have you heard of that name before?
Yeah, Bobby Cole. He's Eric Cole's father. Eric Cole, who's on the PGA Tour now, and he was married to a famous South African female professional golfer who played in. She played on the LPGA Tour for a long time.
Okay,
but yeah, Bobby Cole was a good South African player.
Okay, well, yeah. So Gary Player was there in first, and in fact, I'll give a bit of a spoiler alert. Gary Player actually won this wire to wire. So he was in first the whole way through. Second round, Gary Player was 5 under par with the second place at even. So he was 5 shots clear after round 2. Third round, Gary Player shot was at 1 under with second place at +2. And final round, Gary Player was at -2 with second place Peter Oosthuizen at +2. So Gary Player won it by 4 shots. Obviously, the big thing about the 74 Open is the controversy / rumors, etc., about Gary Player cheating. And for those who been in the dark, there's rumors swirling about Gary Player's caddy having dropped a ball into the fescue where he was looking for his ball. So they searched for his ball for a while, couldn't find it, and then found the ball. Gary Player played it, and then obviously went on to win. And then the sort of rumor is that after the round, or sort of shortly after that, one of the spectators sort of rolled up there and found a ball with the similar markings or the same markings as Gary Player had hit. To this day, obviously, Gary Player has denied that. And to be fair, when I was looking at legitimate news sources for anything about this story, there was nothing.
I mean, you were
so
there.
Other than a couple of, sorry, Lynton?
You were there, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. That was another place I was at. I mean, I was standing there. I actually found the ball. So yeah, I apologize to Gary Player for maybe causing some of the controversy. So if anyone's listened, I also did that to Max Homer at Sun City. So apologies, Max Homer. But yeah, I couldn't find, genuinely, I actually couldn't find anything legitimate in like news stories and the rest of it. And I don't know if Gary Player's just paid like AI or minions to wipe the slate clean, or if like genuinely there are no news stories about it. But the only sort of story about Gary Player cheating at that 1974 Open was where he did a Patrick Reed, where he had to play a putter from sort of an out of boundsy sort of area. Well, it wasn't out of bounds, but like out of a difficult area. And he sort of like cleared his line with his putter before he hit the shot. But I mean, I don't know. That's like is it breaking the rules? Is it like taking it to the edge of the rules? So I mean, that was the only sort of thing I could find in sort of print media. So I think it is more than anything going to go down as rumors swirling about the ball dropping incident. I don't think there's any real sort of evidence to suggest that Gary Player cheated his way to the 1974 Open. And I mean, at the end of the day, what did he win it by? 4 shots. So yeah, Gary Player, I'm giving you a
first-hand
pass
account of it.
And yeah, I was there. So I mean, I found the ball. Gary Player, I apologize. It wasn't the same markings. I thought it was at first glance, but having studied that ball more carefully, it's clearly different markings.
Was Gary? Did he put up against the clubhouse, back onto the green?
That was the one. So that was the Patrick Reed incident where they said when he pulled his putter back, he sort of cleared the ground a bit with his practice swings. But yeah, I mean,
who hasn't
Patrick
done that?
Reed,
Let's be honest.
yeah, well, I mean, come on. Who among us? Who among us hasn't cleared a couple of rocks with their backswing?
I mean, waist biker, obviously.
The weed eating.
But yeah, that was it.
Around
Gary players 3. T, you are going to have to cruise through Ernie Els.
No, don't stress, because I haven't done like a round by round breakdown like you did. Thanks for that. But I know it was special for you because you were there, so we do appreciate that. But guys, I'm going to take you to Ernie Els in 2002. So very, very briefly, but do you guys know who won the Masters in 2002 without looking? It's pretty easy.
Tiger Woods.
Very good golfer. Huh?
Tiger
Woods.
Yeah.
Correct. You know who won the US Open?
Tiger Woods.
Do you know who won the PGA?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Tiger Woods.
It was Tiger Woods. So guys, they got to the Open at Muirfield as well, and Tiger was on course for the calendar slam. This was it. This was the moment. And Lynton, you touched on it earlier. What happened was Tiger was very much on course for that, and they had
PJ was still after the Open back then.
Good point. It must have been
in the last 3-4 years.
Yes, this is Lynton. You're keeping us honest. I love it.
Honestly,
that
sucks.
That's
part of my notes here. That's honest. We can touch on it later. That's the only
Terence,
reason.
just think about
PGA stayed relevant.
I didn't say before the Open. I just asked who won it. You know.
Just think about how much shit we would have got wrong. I would have,
because it moved to May. Before, it was in August, and the only reason it was great in August because it made the distance between August and April and the Masters shorter. That's the only reason that PGA is stayed.
Correct.
Terence, if it wasn't for Lynton, our listeners would have been misled about when the British Open was and about the price of chocolate blocks. So,
I'm calling it the British Open.
Wow.
yeah, the Open Championship.
Yes.
Yeah, so as you said, Lynton, on the Saturday, a nasty squall rolled through Muirfield, and apparently guys were not prepared out there. It wasn't necessarily in the forecast, and Tiger ended up shooting 81. It was his worst ever round as a professional at that point. Only 4 players broke par that day. There were, I counted earlier, there were 10 rounds in the 80s that day. So, I mean, it's a lot, but it's not like the worst day in major history. You know, when it comes to like a really, really bad day. You know,
the interesting thing about Muirfield, though, so it's just to jump in here for anyone who's ever hoping to plan to visit Muirfield. The chances of having good weather are good. Where it's located, it's a generally very dry. It doesn't get that much rain. So that's also why I think so many guys were not prepared for it, because it came out of nowhere.
How do you think Oaks would prepare for it, though? I mean, do you just get the wind turbines blowing and I suppose find some shitty weather and go play there for a bit?
What do you mean?
No, that
prepare for it.
Prepare for super cuck conditions.
At Muirfield, so a short 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
But JDV, apparently guys were literally caught without proper gear out
actual
there. No gear, nothing.
It was like a base. It was like they were prepping themselves for base camp, but they actually got the weather of Camp 4. Of Everest,
okay.
You know?
So it's not like prepping yourself and being oh my word, okay, it's blowing a bit.
It wasn't like my game's not ready for this. It's like my fucking
my
body
gear's not ready for this.
Is about to go into hypothermia.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, guys, Ernie started with like a 3-shot lead and in going to the final round, and he didn't really play that great in the final round, but he sort of nerdled it around and shot a 70 and ended up in a 4-way playoff against really quite a few journeymen. That was Stuart Appleby, Steve Elkington, and Thomas LeVay, like proper journeymen. And after 4 holes, they did the sort of usual 4-hole net playoff. Ernie and I'm going to say it was Thomas LeVay.
LeVay lasted the longest.
Yeah, I think Ernie and Thomas LeVay ended up going through. I think the 2 Aussies bowed out. And then Ernie, I think LeVay bogeyed the 18th again, and that was it. Ernie won by just playing in the playoff, just even par, just parred every hole in the playoff, and that was the Open Championship. So it was 2002.
That is actually pretty cool, just to watch a little bit of a duel like that rather than just sudden death.
Yeah, I think they played the aggregate.
When you had distance like that, it's like, guys, we're going to play 4 holes and let's see how you go here. And then the guy actually plays 4 holes and plays level and wins.
I think sudden death playoffs are super cruel. Like,
no,
I know it's like
I know it's generally watching.
I know it's for TV, but yeah, I know it like works for these PGA Tour events for TV and that, but yeah, for like a major championship, I think you got to have like a nets playoff, and then obviously, I mean, we go to 2012, and Ernie obviously won the Open in 2012, guys, at Royal Lytham and St Anne's. Do you guys know why this win was significant? The 2012 Ernie Open win in the South African golfing landscape.
Not the South African landscape, I just know about Ernie personally because he had 2 very near misses at Lytham the 2 previous times.
So it's significant because it's the last
Lytham in 96. Was it Lytham 96? Yeah, Lytham 96. Who won? Lehman won. Tom Lehman won 96, I think. And that was Tiger's last tournament as an amateur. Tiger's last tournament as an amateur.
Okay.
Tiger won Low-Am and turned pro after that. And I think Ernie had bowed out a little bit in the final round and didn't do himself justice. And out of frustration, had this kid come to him in the locker room and said, "Mr. Els, like, when do you think I should turn pro?" And Ernie still said, and it was Tiger, said, like, "Just turn pro as quick as you can, get and make as fucking much money as you can." Yeah.
I bet you Ernie regrets telling him that.
Well, yes and no, because if it wasn't for Ernie, if it wasn't for Tiger, all of these oaks wouldn't be making nearly as much money as
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Yeah. Before Tiger winning, got you some cash, got you £1,000, or coming second,
£1,000,
Tiger, got you a lot more than £1,000. So, yeah,
it's true.
Ernie still refers to that conversation. I'm pretty sure it was 96 Lytham. Ernie back it up, fun round, and he had this passing with Tiger, who was this young kid who just won low and said, like, "When do you think I should turn pro?" And he said, just do it as quick as you can and just get in and get out as quick as you can and just, cash in. Yeah.
So, I mean, to your point there, I was just looking at the prize money. So from 96 to 2000, the prize money more than doubled in 4 years for the Open.
Tiger.
Yeah, there we go.
Tiger effect.
So,
Point made.
There it is.
Yeah, I think that's
Sorry,
a good
but
point.
your point, you were asking what was significance of Lytham.
So the reason
Africans.
it's significant, it's literally the last major that we've won as South Africa. And I think people forget that. It does sometimes. It feels like just the other day when we had like Trevor and Charles and we had Louis and we had this like great little run, and then Ernie with like a little swan song. But that was it, guys. It's been 13 years since we've won a major. So
8, 10, 11, 13. 8, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. 8, 10, 11, 12.
So I wanted to circle that, and then obviously it was known for Adam Scott sort of, kind of throwing it away. Adam Scott bogeyed the last 4 holes, but I think what people forget is that Ernie played the back 9 of that bogey free, and he was 4 under for the back 9. And look, he was still 4 shots back when he finished. But at the end of the day, you post a number in the Open, everyone knows kind of what can happen. And yeah, Ernie went out there and posted that number and played like a pretty flawless back 9. So a lot of people a lot of people blame, they sort of blame, they don't blame Ernie, but they feel sorry for Adam Scott. I think what this was, I think that Adam Scott should blame Todd Hamilton for his loss, because I think this win was retribution for Ernie losing to Todd Hamilton in that awful Open playoff at Troon.
Ernie Els felt sorry for Adam Scott.
And also, let's be honest, 2004 when Ernie lost that thing at Troon, like Ernie was fucking lethal at match play. Wasn't he on that? That was when he was in that run of like 3 straight match plays at Wineries. Yeah. Like he was demon. He was also just coming off the. Oh no, that was going to happen. So 2004. That was later on. They were obviously going to President's Cup. That wasn't an easy 2 holes that he had to play against Tiger.
But Ernie and Adam Scott were big mates.
Yeah,
and I mean, I think Ernie even like looked a bit pained, like, and it's not when you see these, like, Ernie's not like a sort of Tiger Woods killer that you get like out there. I mean, he genuinely looked like he felt bad for what happened to Adam Scott. And when Adam Scott won the Masters, I mean, Ernie was genuinely like stoked. He was like, "No, I'm happy this Oaks won the Masters." So again, I think it's impressive. Like when you look at those guys and you look at the killer instincts. I mean, Ernie's also got the killer instincts. Obviously, I mean, he has to. But he was one of the guys feeling bad for Adam Scott at the end.
That's what I was kind of like asking you earlier, Jock, about Bobby Locke's one with Billy Casper kind of shitting the bed a little bit there. Like, Gary went out there and posted a score, a little bit like Ernie did. It is what it is. So it would be quite cool to kind of pull up those 2 scorecards to see when did Billy like fall apart? Did he fall apart early in his round? Or was it also just kind of watching that scoreboard? I don't know, back in the day, did they have that big yellow scoreboard which you can see from the fucking country mile? Like, see, like, shit, it's so exposed to a score. Like, I'm just pegging back, and then the pressure gets to you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just the way we've spoken about this evening. It's quite similar.
I have a lot of respect for guys who post like an under par like back 9 on Sunday in a major. I mean, I think of like even this year, like JJ Spawn, like love him or hate him. He ended up going and posting like a really great score, and went out and kind of got it, I think that's what you want. Like, I don't think you want guys, like, it's tough when you see the majors when guys sort of shoot 75 or 6 and they end up sort of nerdling it over the line. Guys, JDV, that's my wrap on Ernie. That's me done. I'm going to sit back and enjoy this little Helderberg reserve that I've got here.
You're gonna listen to me race through Louis Oosthuizen, yeah?
Oh, please.
Look, I'm not going to race too much.
Not too quickly.
I'm going to start by asking you.
Wine is to be enjoyed slowly, JDB.
I'm going to comp it firstly, Lynton. You're going to love this because I'm going to start it with a bit of controversy because South Africans love Louis Oosthuizen, but we also love to hate a random major winner. And I know Hoffman hates a random major winner. So I just want to bring us all back to earth here and just put our minds back to 2010 and give it a thought. If, think about if we were sitting there and witnessing the 54th rank player winning a major open, and how we would feel and what we would say, and would we be saying, what a glorious moment in golf. And I had a look, I just love how poetic this was. I just went and looked at golf ranking at Data Golf to see, well, who is the number 54 ranked golfer? None other than Brian Harman is our current 54th ranked golfer. And I was like, shit, that is poetic.
2 years ago.
Because
Wow.
all of us are like, Brian Harman was a cuck open winner. And that is basically Louis Oosthuizen in 2010. Was that 54th like random sort of like, yeah, we know him, but like, do we really want him to win the Open? Not really. So I think let's just give a spare of thought. I mean, as South Africans, I'm over the moon Louis Oosthuizen won, and he obviously went on to do big things and like compete in other events. But at the time, put your feet in the shoes of the rest of the world. They were like, this is a bit of a shit winner. I don't know. Like, am I off the mark here? But I mean, at the time, his last win was like some random Spanish event, and I'll find out what it was. Like the Open, something or another. But like, he had won some Sunshine Tour events. He had a couple of very good results in the European Tour, but he was like nowhere. And then came out and
cost back to
sorry,
a little bit. That Open, if I remember correctly, Rory was the hotshot kid of the day. Hadn't won a major. Went out. I think he shot a course record in the morning.
9 under. Yeah. Rory was 9 under. Louis was 2 behind him after round 1.
Did they both play in the morning?
No. So this is the interesting fact.
Louis had weather both days. Good weather.
Correct. Yes. So the beauty of the draw.
Yeah.
So Rory shot 9 under. Interestingly, John Daly was coming third at 6 under. But needless to say, John Daly fell away from the storyline very quickly. The second round, Rory McIlroy shoots 8 over 80. And Louis gets the best of it. Massive win. So bad it stopped play at one stage.
Yeah.
I think Jason Duffner.
On the Thursday, where did Rory go off in the morning?
So Rory was afternoon field, if I
and Louis was morning.
So Rory was after, and Louis was morning, Rory was afternoon, and then the morning was diabolical.
The was okay-ish the whole day.
Wait, no, sorry. I'm wrong. It's the opposite way. Okay. Because they had to stop play and they only finished play the next morning. So the winds were so bad in the afternoon that they stopped the play on the second round. So Jason Duffner had to stop the play. His ball was like rolling off the green while he was trying to putt, and they were like, "Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Let's call it." But yeah, Rory shoots 80. Louis shoots. Louis gets to minus 12. So bearing in mind, so plus 8. So Rory basically gives everything back the next day. So the other thing about the second round, 7.5 hour rounds, guys. That's how long it took the guys to play the afternoon field rounds. Mark Calvecchia coming second, which was a little interesting tidbit. But yeah, he absolutely ejected after round 3. Mark Calvecchia shoots 7 over after 5 holes in round 3, aborts himself from the conversation, and Paul Casey comes back into the mix. Paul Casey then on the final round shoots a triple on 12, a 7 and calls it a day. So that's the end of Paul Casey. In the end, Louis wins by 7 at the end of the day. So Louis came into the final round leading by 4. But yeah, I think the one thing I had to say is that. Let me just have a look here. Paul Casey. Yes, I was having a look here. Yeah, at the end of the day, like Louis was like seriously playing a very carefree round on that final round. So I watched, they've got every shot of Louis Oosthuizen winning on the RNA website. And yes, he is like carefree. He's just smiling and laughing. He doesn't actually look stressed at all the whole way through. And you can understand why, because when Paul Casey makes the 3 over after on the 12th, he's pretty much just absolutely cruising. He made an eagle on the 9th. I mean, at one stage, and I think this is the one thing that Peter Ayler said is this is if he goes on to win this, we've got a new kitchen. Is what is when they sort of put a shot on his wife when he's like playing one of the shots, and Peter Ayler says if he goes on to win this, she gets a new kitchen. And I was like, ooh, that's like not exactly politically correct anymore. But yeah, the other thing he said after the 12th, 17 under, just a stroll to victory, and I was like, yeah, that's a bit of a Brian Harmon, question, like also just strolling on to victory. But yeah, so Louis Oosthuizen 2010, it was an absolute stroll to victory, I think was the way to put it. There was no. Do you remember that in 2010? I mean, what were your guys' thoughts? Like for me, it was never in doubt that he was going to win after sort of
you just talk about this.
Round.
You mentioned how you kind of like walking carefree, like shit, like nobody really. He doesn't look flustered at all. He doesn't understand the position he was in. And then 2 years later, that completely turned against him. And I remember actually seeing that in you think back to 2010. You just watch this. He walked up the fucking golf ball and he just hit it and he followed the ball and he made putts. And he won the thing by country mile. And 2012 at the Masters. And Louis himself says like that albatross hurt him.
Yeah,
albatross hurt him
because he thought, nah, it's easy.
He hit that albatross on 2 at Augusta, and all of a sudden he went from, I think he was tied with Bob at the time, and then all of a sudden he went 3 ahead.
Yeah.
And the next thing he knew, the next memory that he has, he doesn't remember 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the next thing he would remember, he was back on 9, and he was back to level. Like, shit, now I'm back in the tournament again, type of thing. It's like, there was this memories of 12, like, yes, at 10, like, I'm just cruising, and then 12, shit, get out of your head here, actually play some golf.
JDV, my take on it is that I think when you bring up his world ranking and that, I think that's a super pertinent point because he did not have any, like, expectation on him at that time. And I think if you look back and, like, I think one of the, you and I have talked about doing a deep dive, like just a deep dive Louis Oosthuizen podcast, which I think we must do. But when you look back on that, and then you go forward to some of his like near misses, there's absolutely no doubt that the guy has battled in pressure situations. His playoff record is like horrific, and tough. Like the quality of golfer that he is obviously got him into like some really, really, really good positions to win not just tournaments but more majors. And yeah, it's just never happened. And there's no doubt that having that like carefree, like unknown tag at that Open was super beneficial to him, that he could just go out there and just keep swinging, and ended up winning it by a country mile.
Well, I mean, let's quickly.
Can I ask you guys, and maybe some of the guys who watch this can comment. Which one hurts most, 2012 or 2015? Of watching Louis.
2015.
Yeah, 2015.
JDV's
so 2015.
There, I'm sure.
Let's quickly go there because I mean,
Monday. It was a
let's put a bow on 2010. 2015. Louis Oosthuizen goes into a playoff with ZJ, Zach Johnson, Leishman, and himself, obviously. A couple of the things that are that I had to say is that shit, it was brutal. I mean, Louis had literally 2 putts to win it. So, I mean, Leishman ejected himself early. It was Louis and Zach Johnson trading blows. Zach Johnson was quite a lot shorter than Louis, so Louis was striping it and like smacking it like quite far. And Zach Johnson, to his credit, was absolutely flushing the ball. 17, so I have to stop on 17 because that's where it sort of all starts going a bit pear-shaped. So Zach Johnson, Zach Johnson, they all pretty much stripe a drive. Okay, let's leave Leishman out of it. He's out of it now. But Louis and Zach stripe a drive. Zach Johnson leaves himself literally between the road hole bunker and the pin, obviously. Louis leaves it front right of that. So Louis front right of the green. Zach Johnson sort of tries to do a flop shot over the bunker, goes into the rough, like chips it up over the bunker, sort of over the hole, leaves himself about a 10, 12 footer. Louis then 3 putts from at the bottom right of the green. But he had also got the line from Mark Leishman. So I'm like, he had like underread it, and I was like, oh God. I mean, I watched it again, and you sort of think he's going to make it.
If you've ever played that hole, there's no other place to be than right. And he was,
which is perfect. So he was right. I mean, all he had to do was sort of lag a putt up there.
But he shouldn't have been again was in the same position in the actual round on the fourth round.
So look, anyway, so Louis misses his par putt there and then gets to the final hole. Look, he's also missed another one. So let's call that a 3 putt. He missed another one. He gets to the 18th. He almost like he hits a flipping bolter there on the 18th. Like does a pretty reasonable like little flop shotty chip. I mean, tough hole, like on the ridge of 18th at St Andrews. Anyway, Zach Johnson 2 putts. Louis got a putt to sort of keep it alive. Hits his putt. I mean, for all it's worth, it looks like it's in. I mean, the commentators, Peter Aylis, calls it in, and it lips out again, and he's done. But interestingly, Louis Oosthuizen four times he 3-putted in that final round of the 2015 Open. I mean, he just didn't have it with the putts. I mean, for a professional to 4 times to 3 putts is like, and look, I mean, the greens are big and tough and the rest of it. I understand that, but like in those situations, like I mean, it's like watching that series of events again is brutal.
The 3 putts he wasn't making on the shared greens and having to make like a 50-footer.
Yeah, they were like 5-footers that he was missing.
Correct. So.
No, it was brutal.
So, yeah.
Like one of the, I don't want to go back and watch that. I can't believe you watched it. I
do have to say, what is interesting was do you actually remember that like Zach Johnson, there was like a full on issue about whether he could fix what he thought was on 18. He was like, is this a cut mark or a foot mark?
Pre-rule change, like you could
exactly.
Yes,
and he called for a second opinion. The Oaks were all running in, and
it's an old cup, and you fixed it. Yeah, I remember that. That took an extra minute,
and he still missed the putt.
I was fortunate to go to I know the reason I asked about which one hurts most, 2012 or 2015. I was fortunate to go to the Masters in 13. And Louis missed the cut that day. And then Vaynant, his caddy, who caddied 12 and was there in 12 when they missed it. Obviously. And in 13, Vaynant was walking with us. He happened to be walking down 10. And then he purposely said, like, no, he wants to go down the right on 10, down to that gully there. And then we got to the bottom there, and those magnolias there, and he's like, yeah, right here. We're 250,000 rands worth of fucking my tip lies right here. Hit that wedge.
Bubba's hook. Haven't they put a plaque there now? I think they've put a plaque there now. Yeah.
Did they put a
plaque? I think.
I'm sure.
Seriously, I think they put a plaque in the trees.
No, Augusta would never stoop that low.
That is a good point.
I don't know.
Can't be putting plaques.
Augusta,
I think that's what happened.
Terence, I remember there was a plaque in DCC for shit, man. Is that like the Belgium Oak, the big hit for that massive drive? Colsots. There was a drive there there was a plaque there for Colsots on the
par 5.
It was the 4th, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that plaque's there anymore. I haven't seen that thing.
It was a bit below DCC as well to put a plaque there for
I do remember that plaque being there, but I can't remember seeing that last time I played there.
I think Nick Johnson might have removed it.
Said no. Anyway, that is my homework done.
No, well, listen, guys. I hope you enjoyed that little sojourn down the lane. I think the takeaways are that it's been a great hunting ground for us and some great memories, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of. I mean, we haven't even touched on other near misses that other golfers have had, in our kind of era. But and there have been some, but. Who knows? Like, I don't know if we're in the greatest position this year to put up a challenge for the Claret Jug, but who knows? Tristan Lawrence surprised us last year, and he's got some reps now, and he's starting to play some good golf again as well. But Lynton, I wanted to circle back to like a conversation about golf and wine, and. Your talk about your comments earlier about how your choice of a bottle of wine is so like personal and individual. It kind of made me think about how people talk about golf courses that they love, and how much that debate rages and how personal that can become. I mean, I won't forget one of the great comments I heard this year was when myself and Jacques were about 5 bottles of wine deep and at Gowrie Farm earlier this year, and Guy Smith leaned over to Jacques and said to him, "What's your favorite golf course in KZN?" And Jacques said, "He said, well, he thinks it's probably Donny," and and Guy, needless to say, Guy Smith wasn't super impressed with that.
He winced.
That
he
selection.
Winced in pain when I said that.
He said, "Oh, it's got a nice view, but it's not really a golf course." But I think the point is that it was like that was like personal to JDV, and I concur with that when it comes to wine. Like, I feel, like I said, there's a lot of emotion around it, like a lot of memories that you have about a certain golf course or a certain bottle of wine. I think there's a good like overlap and synergy between golf and wine in that way.
100%. I think we go back to what I mentioned earlier. I know this is a kind of a golf, obviously a golf podcast, but yes, guys, just give wine a bit more of a chance. It's so easy for us to go on golf tours and go to a clubhouse and just drink beers and double brandy and cokes, but that's next time you're out there, just have a little gander at the wine list, even if it's 5 bottles deep, and even if it's just something bang average, just pull the cork on it or twist the screw cap off it and have it with 2 or 3 oaks. Somebody might tell a funny Van der Merwe joke and reminisce of someone's triple bogey on 4th, and you'll walk away and say, like, shit, that was actually like a bottle of wine that I had on a lacquer course, and just remind you, and the memory might be associated to vino. Our job is hard enough to be competing in the liquor space, because especially in the golf environments, because it's not so much so inclined, because we just end up drinking spirits or beers after rounds. But if you're out the next time and you've had a lacquer round of golf at your Donny or your Nutsby Country Club, then just pull a bottle of Porcupine Ridge or a Wolf Trap or a Protea or whatever might be on the list, then just focus, have it. It might just it might just ignite a good memory for down the future and kind of bring you back to a bit of vino. Just on that, though, I did have a thought, T. I think we need, and JDB, I think we need a little sidebar on this at some stage and say, okay, for anybody who's interested after today's podcast, we'll do a little tour down to the Cape, and we make it focused around vino and golf, complete, very much alongside one another, round in the morning or / round in the afternoon with proper vino, and we'll make sure that we deliver properly on the vino side as well. So it's not just
That's a great idea.
in the clubhouse. We go afterwards, we go visit a winery or two, and lunch will be had there or dinner will be had there, and we'll throw vino at it properly, and we'll make sure that the generosity is way beyond what the guys are paying for.
Nice.
That's an amazing idea. I love that. And we've got the SA Open teed up next year in Stellenbosch as well. So I think there's no excuse.
Yes. Great.
There's no excuse for South African golf and wine lovers to combine the two and to kind of make your way down to that part of the world. I know you were going to touch on it earlier, but I must say this Helderberg reserve really is nice. I have been enjoying slaping on it here.
So just before we close off here quickly, what you guys have both had. So we kind of took you both in different directions. JDV, you had obviously had chocolate block tonight. Little Syrah blend from predominantly out of the Swartland. Syrah with mainly Grenache and a bit of Cinsault. Tea, you had the Helderberg, which is a proudly Stellenbosch blend, predominantly cab with a little bit of Syrah and a little bit of Cinsault in there as well, both from 23 vintage. Guys, both those wines are available on the shop with a 20% discount if you are subscribers to the Go Track. Proper, like a good bottle of wine to have alongside you for next weekend. If not, I have been sipping on our Cabernet tea for the Shard for this evening, because I've had a lot of red wine this afternoon already, but it does have a stablemate, a little bit of Pinot as well.
We had the stablemate earlier with supper. It was absolutely amazing.
It's very, very good. I had that earlier. I had that earlier in the week. It's very nice.
Yes,
I had it earlier in the day.
If you are heterosexual and you are male and you have been talking a little bit of red wine on the podcast this evening, well, what would you talking a little bit of red wine while you are watching the Open next week, and you need to share your bottle. The Pinot is a beautiful drop to have with your significant other, and definitely, you wouldn't be in trouble for having two of those while watching the Open next Sunday. Easy could be slotting back 2 bottles of those during the course of the afternoon.
Or Thursday afternoon as well.
I might have some Thursday afternoon.
I don't want to limit you guys. So guys, don't forget, check out the links on that we've shared. Sign up to the Go Track, and you will receive the discount code. But also, it's put it out now. It is invincible.wine. That is the website, and then the discount code is TGT Open 20. That is going to sort you out for the Open Championship, and it is limited offer time. This is not a long-term gig, guys. You need to get in there. Get Lynton packing boxes next week, shipping them out. Before we go, JDV, I know you did a little bit of exercise in the last couple of days. Both with some golf clubs and without golf clubs. Just give us your little brief summary down there in Knysna.
Yeah, it was brutal. I'm not going to lie. Knysna Marathon is no fun. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We staying here at my brother-in-law's place. It's absolutely fantastic, but yeah, I suffered hard. I wanted to get it under 5 hours, and I got in at 4:59 and 12 seconds. So yeah, I was powering at the end to try and get under 5.
Well done.
Finished. My legs are alive, but yeah. That's I'm not gonna go into too many details, but I was going through some dark
painted such
times.
a beautiful picture there. It sounds terrific. I'm sure a lot of our guys are going to try and sign up next year.
Scenery was amazing. The the feeling in my legs not so amazing.
I love it. Like we were speaking earlier, I touched on it a little bit, but like golf is like, come, get off your golf carts and start walking, and you've really sold it to us.
Yeah. So if you want, I honestly was also saying to Kath, I was like, no, but I mean, some of the rounds I walked counts as training, but when you actually do run the marathon, like those chickens come home to roost.
Maybe next time just spend
training.
Maybe next time just spend those 5 hours like playing golf. I mean, it might be a better idea.
But T, I mean, what's happening with you at Princess Grant this last couple of weeks?
No, yeah, just had a little round there last week. I mean, it's become a bit of an annual tradition with a friend of mine. We kind of try and take a day off, and we head out there when it's nice and quiet. And Princess, you can't really go wrong at Princess Grant in winter in KZN. I mean, we had some conditions. It was a little bit blustery. Look, I don't want to go into deep details, but there were some concerning conditions of a couple of those greens. I did share some photos with you, JDV, and this pushes into a deeper discussion on our SA top 100 takes. But I think there's some things to unpack there, because it was not the Princess Grant greens that I remember. They're losing a couple of them on the fringes, on the edges there in the winter. So that was a bit tough. But having said that, like I had my best putting day ever that I've had in like 2 years. I absolutely putted the lights out. So maybe it's a sign, that I just need to like putt on slightly like I need those little bumps and lumps to hit my ball onto line, but it was a good day out, but I can't really complain. It was like putted the absolute lights out. My iron and driver game is still like pretty awful, but had fun out there. The handicap's definitely not going down at the moment, but it was a good day out there. So hopefully we can get together soon, Lynton. Thanks so much for your time this evening. Probably longer than you thought you were signing up for. And I just want to also thank you for not sharing any spreadsheets like your butt did on the podcast we had with him. It's much appreciated.
I was about to say I'm upset you're not sharing any spreadsheets, because I thought at least we could like start some family feud for like who shared the best spreadsheets.
Well, Ryan's spreadsheet was a breakdown of how the fees at the levies at Nutsburg Country Club are distributed, I think, wasn't it?
It was a good spreadsheet. I mean, as far as spreadsheets go, I mean, even I understood it.
Jacques, you'll be happy to know that the last time I saw you were actually on a golf tour with my boys. When you were in that makeshift clubhouse at Zalza.
Yes, I do remember that.
Your pro bono services for me to...
Jacques pretending to remember that.
My handicap.
I do actually remember that.
My handicap debacle, because apparently I was winning too much.
I'm still absolutely available for that, by the way.
No,
that should be a podcast series in itself, by the way.
It would have been. No, I've left them much now, so this also. So.
Hold the space. We're gonna have a like a intense controversial podcast series about hashtag Padger applications and handicaps.
Yeah, but genuinely, I think we need to have a little sidebar discussion about next year's Open SA Open at Stellies, and for some true TGTers,
I'm
bring that
excited for
down.
that.
Let's have some fun. Maybe play a couple of rounds before, then watch some Open and build a nice little package: accommodation, proper food,
100%.
proper dog, proper vino,
Wine.
with a good maybe do 3 days of even if it's just weekend of watching at Stellies, and we build a nice little package for us.
I'm excited.
Keep the guys excited.
That'd be super cool. I'm pretty sure guys would jump at that. Would we be able to record a podcast in the cellar? To be like ticking off a childhood dream.
I think
Here
it
we
would
go,
be
JDV.
do something at a winery.
Taking off a childhood dream.
Yeah. No, I think it would be pretty legit actually if we just did one of these after a day at the Open or something like that inside
See,
the set.
my childhood dreams are from 1968 when, or what's it, 1959 when Gary Player won the Open. That was my childhood.
I don't expect you to remember all of them, JDV.
It's been a long life.
It's been a long life.
I'm tired.
It's been a long weekend. I can hear the chocolate block is starting to take its toll on you. I think
is this an Amdoni podcast all over again?
We're getting close to sort of Amdoni Sun City territory here, which is always a good time to sign off. And Lynton, thanks again, bud. It was really cool to chat, and we're definitely going to take it further with the grapes and golf theme for next year.
Golf,
but
that is good.
It's just something I came up with. Guys, if there's nothing else, then that's it. Let the pod end. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Like it, boys.
Thanks for having us on here, and guys, enjoy the Open. Shut the worst thing about the Open now and the PGA being moved to May. Fuck, it's 9 months. It's 9 months till the Masters, which is the worst thing. But otherwise,
like a
keep it straight. Go well.
Drink lots of wine.
Much wine.